Today I'm working on an iMac. It's a mid 2013 21.5-inch iMac that has a 1 terabyte hard drive that has begun to fail. It's very, very slow. It's just unusable in its current state. So last night I connected a Samsung 860 QVO SSD via my USB cable and used disk recovery tools to restore the hard drive contents onto the SSD. That process took several hours, about 4 hours. So I just let it go overnight. And now this morning, I'm ready to do the physical drive replacement. So this will involve cutting the adhesive tape. There's double-sided tape around the edges of this LCD panel. So I have to cut that, open it up, disconnect the cables, take the LCD off completely, and then physically swap the drives. I have a tape kit for this model. This is from Amazon. It was S-Union, it's called. So it has these bits of tape that are pre-configured. It has little guide holes in here that allow me to just put those over the guide pegs on the Mac itself and then stick it on, and then when I'm ready, peel off the backing, put the LCD panel in place, and then I don't have to worry about the LCD panel falling off on the customer at some point in the future. So I will shut this down and get started. I'm going to use, I don't have the roller tool that Apple or iFixit recommends to get between the screen, the LCD panel, and the iMac. As you can see, it's quite thin, the LCD panel, but I do have a tool that's quite thin as well, just a little, I'm not sure even what you'd call it, some type of spatula. So I'll use that spatula to get in between the glass panel and the aluminum frame, aluminium as they say here. And then I've got another metal spatula that I've sharpened to a knife edge that I can follow this tool with. So I'm going to start on the corner. The corners are usually, yeah, this is quite easy to get into the corner here. And I can get my tool. So I don't want to stick it in very far. They say no more than 10 mil or 1 centimeter. So I'm just going to use my fingers as a guide. And I can feel it tearing that tape, the double-sided tape. Okay, so that side is good. I can feel the LCD panel is slightly loose. And I can just feel the glass moving. Now I've got to be careful of the webcam here. So I just pull it out a little bit to get past the webcam and lights. Now, actually, before I go any further, I'm going to put some padding down between the back of the stand and the iMac itself, just to prevent it from accidentally tipping forward once I've got the LCD loose. So once this panel is loose, the last thing I'd want is for the iMac to come forward and just dump the LCD onto the ground, breaking the connectors and just causing a very expensive mess. Okay, so that's loose. Not really cutting very easily this side. So what I'm going to do is use my pry tool. Let's move this over so you can see a little better. So my pry tool is in the corner here, you can see. I'm going to get my knife just before the pry tool and go down together in tandem, using the sharp edge of the knife to cut that adhesive and the pry tool to keep it prized apart. I need to do this without cutting any wires and without cutting myself. I might lay this down so you can see it better. Okay. Turn my camera back on. We'll go on the left side this time. So I'm just going to pull this knife without the pry tool because it seems like it's happy enough. Now I know my dad taught me a long time ago, never pull a knife toward yourself. So I'm moving my hand out of the way here. Just as it gets kind of bound up, I'm going to go back to my safer methods because I don't want to be prying very hard with a sharp blade. Okay, I think I've got all that adhesive cut. Just going to go back through it with this and make sure. I mean, I can feel the adhesive in there. Yeah, that's loose. So there's another strip of adhesive along the bottom that I can only get to once we pry the LCD panel off of the Mac. So I can see now that the panel is fully loose on those three edges. Yeah. Okay. I've seen this done a few different ways, or a couple of different ways. One is where you stand the computer up and then pull the LCD forward while we go in and unplug the cables. Or I've seen people lie it flat so that they open it toward them. I think for the camera, I'm going to try to do it standing up. On the older iMacs, you have something like there were 4 different connectors: the sync cable, the backlight power, I don't know, there were 4 cables on the last one that I did. It was a late 2010. This one has 2 connectors right at the top. Here, tip this back a little bit so you can see it. So you can see these 2 black ribbon cables that connect to right here on the system board. There, that's a better view. Once I get these 2 connectors disconnected, this LCD panel will be only attached by the double-sided tape at the bottom. Now, I need to be careful. These haven't moved in quite a long time, and the last thing I want is to pull any wires out of the connectors. So I'm going to try to get in there with a tool. So the lower of the 2 connectors has a handle that you pull up and the cable will just come straight out. I'm going to do that one first. So see how we can't see it. There's a handle here that you flip up and then the cable pops out. Very easily. Very light touch on that. Right now there's double-sided tape at the bottom holding the LCD panel onto the iMac. I just need to get in there and cut it. give it a slice with my rubber, with my plastic spatula here. Do that again. Actually, maybe I'll go with the metal, the knife. I just didn't get this corner. Now, I think for filming, let's see, does this look good? Yeah. No, I'm going to turn it so that I have this in a good angle for me to work on, not for you to see. Because it won't be the worst. Yeah. You can still see. And now I have an excellent work surface here. So I'll give me some tools. Oh, one tiny little bit at the corner. There we go. Right, that looks good. I'm going to take this into the back room and blow the dust out of it with my trusty air blower. Back in a moment. I'm very glad I did that. There was a lot of dust in here. It looks great now. The fan looks really clean. I'm pleased. I guess it's just the SATA connector that's holding this in. So I'll just unplug it. And there you go. There's the old drive. It's basically a 2.5 inch. It looks like a standard SATA connector, so it's possible that this drive doesn't have the thermal sensor that a lot of the iMacs have. I could be talking rubbish. No, is this stuck to the side? It is. Just stuck onto the side of the drive. Let's make sure I remember how this goes. So the new drive will go in like that. And so I just need to stick these bits on the same way they've come off. So I'm going to move that forward so I have some room on my bench, aka desk. It's a nice kind of foamy double-sided tape. I'm going to reuse it. Just prising this off gently so that the adhesive sticks or stays on the rubber. It seems to have. Yeah, I'm happy with that. This part might be tricky, getting the SATA connector back in without taking this panel off, because I won't be able to get in there to pry forward. I might be able to get one of these spudgers in there to just act as a finger behind it to push against, you know, to pull the cable toward the drive or the connector. Let me get it lined up first. Don't want to do anything brash here. It looks good. Let's see if it'll go in. Actually, yeah, that's going in. Now that it's lined up properly, it's just sliding in. Now that it's lined up properly, it's just sliding in. I'm happy with that. Oh, nice little click. Lovely. Kind of looks like it belongs there. Lovely. Now I'm going to move this out of the way so that I can put the LCD panel on my bench and peel the tape off of it. I'm using a plastic tool on this LCD panel because there is, at the very edge, there's a coating that comes over the edge, just over the edge, about 2 millimeters, and is bonded. It's almost like a tape. I'm sure it's part of the coating of the monitor, but it just seems like the lamination of this metal or the glass could come off if I pry with something metal, so I don't want to scrape it off. So I'm being very careful. I'm going to blow the dust off of this as well. Back in a jiff. Okay, so now it's time to install the double-sided tape. It came in this little package all folded up. The little strips for each of the sides. They're labeled. And we'll see how we get on here. They have holes in them that correspond with holes in the frame, so it's easy to line up. Hard to get out of the bag though. So this one is labeled 0505. I don't know exactly what the labels mean, but this is a perfect fit for here, and the little holes line up. So once I take the backing tape off, I'll use my pointed spudger to go through the hole there and line it up with this hole so that I can then lay it down onto the computer like this, press it in place, and then move on to the next one. So just make sure that that surface is clean. Got some alcohol, paper towel. Do the same to the LCD. So they put these little tabs, little blue flags on there where the backing comes off. Very nice. So I'm going to get my tool under here now so that I don't have to try to do this when it's sticky. That adhesive is very sticky. I just got a little bit of it on my finger. Oh yeah, lovely. I've done this before, and I was just as amazed then at how good this whole process is kind of engineered. Okay, so that's the backing down to there. Let me just make sure this still lines up. So there's the hole, because I don't want to, it's easy to kind of stretch it as you go, and I don't want to do that. I want this to be straight. There's a little bubble, but it presses right out. Nice. Okay, so I'm going to leave the other backing tape, the front facing backing, on this. I'm going to do all four sides and then stand the computer up and put the LCD panel on. Well, take the backing off of the bottom strip, put the LCD panel on, and then connect the cables. And I'll probably turn on the Mac before taking all of the backing off and sticking it permanently, because I don't want to, if I had to open it up again because of a connector issue or drive issue or whatever, that wouldn't be good. So now this is, so I'll put my tool through the hole. I'm going to line the hole up, make sure that this lines up properly. That looks right. So with the tool through the tape, I'm going to try to do this with my fingers, keeping it on there. Take this backing off, and then line the tool up into the hole. Make sure this all lines up the way I would expect. Seems to. A little bit of slack in this one. It's a bit, just feels a bit longer than it needs to be, so I'm trying to make sure that it all adheres. For R is going to be the right side of the Mac. For L is going to be the left side of the Mac. There are no guide holes on these. So I'm going to peel it back a little bit so that I can expose the adhesive on the end. I've peeled this down, and now I'll just line it up with the bottom of the case. Trying to get this as straight as I can. Just trying to make sure it gets inside the groove, you know, that it stays in its lane. It doesn't come out the bottom. That'd be the worst case scenario. Lovely. I'm going to stand this up now. I'm going to take off the backing on the bottom strip only. And now I'm going to set the LCD in place. Trusty anti-static bracelet on now. Alright, so I want to make sure these two tabs at the bottom are not going to interfere. Okay, I'm just feeling on the edges to make sure that the glass doesn't overhang on either side. So I can see a sliver of metal there. I can see, let's go over a tiny bit. Yeah, that feels good. Now, the fun part. Those connectors are so good. Okay, that's in. So I'm going to close this up without sealing it. I'm just going to grab a clamp. So I have this. This is actually for opening iPhones, but it'll serve as a basic clamp just to hold this on, to keep it from falling forward when I turn this around and plug it in. So we have the Apple logo. Brilliant. It's kind of hard when I'm holding the LCD panel apart while I'm peeling off this screen. It's hard to worry about what's going on video or not. Just taking the backing tape off of the backing off of the double-sided tape. All right, here we go. Closing it up. Everything looks lined nicely. It's kind of amazing how flexible this glass really is. You don't really appreciate that until you try to pry one of these apart. Okay. Just gonna unplug it, lay it down, and clean it. Grab a microfiber cloth to finish this off. I'm just going to download SSD fan control just in case iOS needs it. Okay, I'm happy with that. The computer is much faster than it was. It has a 1 terabyte Samsung 860 EVO SSD in it, and it runs very well. So thank you for watching. See you next time.